Welcome to Wine and Bible Stories with me, Jessica Hazley. Tonight, we are drinking Sinzin. It's very delicious. I highly recommend it. It is a there's some like dark cherry flavors going on. It's very smooth, but it's also got some oakiness. It's like complex. There's complexity. There's smooth. It goes down smooth. This is good stuff. And as we drink Sinzin, we're going to talk about Eve, the very first woman in the Bible. And she was the very first wife, the very first mother. She was the first one that could birth a child. Now, the story of Eve starts with her creation, which was from the rib of Adam. So she's created out of this guy's rib that God took out of him while he was in a deep sleep. And God took this rib and poof, became a woman. God, it works in mysterious ways. What can you say? So Eve was an interesting character. She's very complex because she's hanging out here in this garden with her, husband Adam. He was the only other guy in the world, so they naturally just had to be together. So they're hanging out in this garden, and in the Garden of Eden, there are two trees. There's a tree of life. Well, there's two important trees. I don't know what else all are. But there's two important trees. There's the tree of life, and there is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. One day, Eve is just hanging out in the garden, just relaxing. Like, can you imagine just being in the Garden of Eden and you don't have a care in the world? You're just hanging out and you just, I don't know, there's grass probably and flowers, and you don't have to do anything for them to be there. Like, you don't have to water anything. You don't, like, God's like, here you go. You have all this stuff right here for you to just chill out, and that's what they do. They just hang out in the garden and smell flowers and play with the animals. I don't know. So one of the animals has a problem with God, apparently, and this animal is the snake. Now we can get into the depth of things, okay? So, like, there's these spirits going on. We don't fight against flesh, fight against the principalities and the spirits in heavenly and earthly places. So, like, there's a spirit in the snake, okay? It's not just, a snake is not just naturally vindictive. There's a spirit going on there. So there's this spirit of enmity, yes, against God in the snake. And so the snake says to Eve, he's like, so God said you could eat whatever you want in the garden? And Eve's like, oh, yes, we can have anything that we want, but he said that if we eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, we're gonna die. And the snake's like, ha! Yeah, no, you're not gonna die. Okay, listen to me, a snake, instead of God. God knows that if you eat of the fruit of the knowledge of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you're not gonna die, but you're gonna be like God. You're gonna be like God. Eve was intrigued by this because, she didn't know anything. She was just like spending her days in the sun and smelling flowers and laying in grass and playing with tigers. Because you could do that because it was just God and Adam and Eve and all the things that he created for them to hang out in. But Eve decided, instead of just hanging out in the garden, that she wanted to know stuff. Okay? And so she's like, okay, I see that, it looks good, the fruit looks good, and the snake is telling me that it's gonna make me wise, so I'm gonna freaking eat it. I'm gonna eat the fruit. And then I'm gonna be like God. It's gonna be awesome. And so she eats this fruit, and then because she eats that fruit and she knows stuff, she's like, oh, shoot, I can't be the only one over here knowing stuff. I'm gonna give it to my husband Adam. And so Adam, just like, cause he's like, okay, sure, I'll have some fruit too, I guess. So like he also eats it, and then they both get ashamed of their nakedness. They're hanging out in a garden and they're perfectly chill and cool, just being naked in a garden. And then the snake and Eve and Adam all together, they totally messed that whole deal up by eating this fruit. And now they're like, they have this like knowledge that they're naked. And it's like, it's not fun anymore. It's like, oh, we're naked. We gotta cover up with some fig leaves. We gotta do something about this going on here. It's really kind of sad. Imagine just like having no clue and being perfectly happy. And then all of a sudden you have a clue. And it's like, whoa, oh, now I'm freaking out. I would rather not have a clue and be happy. I'll tell you that right now. So then, Adam's hanging out, and they're hiding. They're like hiding now from God, as though you could hide from God. That's ridiculous. So they go and hide, and because they hear him coming, they hear God, and then God's like, what's going on? What's up? Why are you covered up? Why are you all hiding and stuff? And Adam's like, oh, well, I'm naked, so I didn't want you to see me, all naked and stuff. And God's like, who told you you were naked? Yeah. God was not happy about this situation going on here. But he knew. Like, it's God. He knew it was going to happen. So God's like, who told you that you're naked? And then Adam, he like totally throws Eve under the bus. He's like, dude, so Eve over here, she gave me this fruit and I ate it. And then God goes to Eve and he's like, he's not happy about this. He's like, you know, what's the deal with this fruit going on that you gave to Adam? And Eve's like, oh, well, there was a snake in the garden. And it told me that the fruit would make me know stuff. And I wanted to know stuff. Or something like that. I don't know. And so God's like, well, alright, you guys know stuff now, but now you can't have any of the fruit from the tree of life because you chose to know things instead of live. They chose knowledge over life, is what happened. And so now they knew stuff, and now they got kicked out of this garden, and the tree of life is now guarded by these angels, these cherubim, and with swords of fire. So now what happens is if you want to get to that tree of life, you have to go through a freaking fire in order to get to it. And that's why we're here. So, you're welcome. I have just given you your purpose. Stay tuned next week when I say more ridiculous things about some other people in the Bible. Not ridiculous so much as wine-induced things. Cheers!